were booted out and their badges taken. Global lead on climate change action aid, Harjeet Singh, joins me now to discuss this. Now, Harjeet, let me ask you now, what do you think will be the outcome of these negotiations? Are we to expect anything meaningful?
Well, hi, good morning. At this moment, it seems very difficult that we are going to have an ambitious outcome. Everything is stuck. There are two major agendas on the table. One, how to help people who are facing climate emergency, and then how we can involve private sector. The fact is, both these strands of talks are at this moment stuck completely. Negotiations went on until late last night, and now ministers are going to take up the text. And what we are hearing that the previous text that was prepared over the last 2 weeks is going to be scrapped, and they're going to be working something at a very top level. So at this moment, things are really, at a log jam.
All right, I was listening to child Swedish activist Greta Thunberg earlier, and she was not happy at the resolutions, of course, talking about the fact that it's mostly a PR stunt. How do we join private sector in ensuring that climate actions are taken?
Well, she's absolutely right. There is so much of frustration and anger among young people, indigenous people, women's rights activists, civil society organization for lack of ambition and the way private sector is being involved. There are real fears of double counting the same emission reduction that we are going to see happening. And it's going to make rich people and rich corporations richer and really undermining human rights. So there are some real concerns that we are seeing on discussions about how to involve private sector. Even the other aspect of how to help people facing climate emergency is not going well at all. Rich countries are blocking and bullying and not allowing any progress to be made on how to generate new finance and support people who are facing floods and drought and rising seas.
All right, so you have been advocating a loss and liability element of the Paris Agreement. Now, can you throw more light on this?
So over the last 30 years, we have seen negotiations really not making sure that there is ambition in terms of reducing emissions. And what we have seen, how the emissions of the last 150 years are now resulting into global temperature rise and massive impacts that people are already facing. We are not talking about impacts in future. We are facing this crisis now. And that's how in the last few years, the whole issue around loss and damage emerged, although the demand has been there since 1991. But only in the last 6 years, an institution was put in place called Warsaw International Mechanism for Loss and Damage. And that was supposed to find ways and channel money to poor countries. But rich countries continued to bully and block any progress in this institution over the last few years. And now, sitting in Madrid, we are reviewing this institution. So, our review was due this year. And the whole question is this institution fit for purpose? Because we are right now facing these climate impacts because of just 1 degree temperature rise. And the current pledges of emission reductions, it seems they are going to take us to more than 3 degree temperature rise. So it's really important that the global institution should be able to respond to that situation. People who are suffering now and also in future. But talks are not moving in the right direction. Rich countries are blocking every discussion on finance. And unless there is money, how can we help people who are suffering on the ground right now?
So how do we move this discussion now to the grassroots, to implementation stage? How do we go from here?
So the fact that we face at this moment is developing countries are meeting most of the cost of how people need to recover from these climate impacts. And that's what we are demanding. In fact, developing countries had put forward some very concrete ideas on the table on how this whole institution needs to be rebooted and upgraded to respond to the reality. But as I said, rich countries are not letting any progress happen, both in terms of forward-looking perspective as well as how to find money. So when we ask for money, they only offer papers and workshops, which are not going to help people. So the discussion is on. and we hope that we are going to have some output, but at this moment, our expectations are really very low.
All right,